finally touching. Dang it. I don't know. Just Virgo things, am I right? Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. That was super sweet of you. Oh my goodness. We have an overwhelming video today, an exciting video, but I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit overwhelmed. I'm having an exciting day so far. Slept in a little bit too much this morning. Didn't mean to do that, didn't feel great about it, but not gonna let it ruin my day. And my downstairs neighbors have started drumming, which is cool. I'm so happy for them creatively, but if you do hear any drum noises, just give a light round of applause because they're doing a really good job and we're very happy that they're exploring musical pursuits. But that's not what this video is about. You did not click on this video to hear about all of the exciting things that happen in my studio apartment in Queens. No, you clicked on this video because you, like me, have an interest in how I dupe out a palette that I really want to buy but I don't want to buy because I don't have the money to buy it. Yes, the title will be something of that sort. So basically, when I was doing my low buy video, talking about the rules of my low buy and everything, in that video I talked about how when the Kaleidos x Angelica Nyqvist palette came out, I was so excited for that palette and I was really sure I was gonna buy it, but then I looked at the palettes I had and realized that I already had all the shades. And on that video somebody commented saying that they would be really interested to see my process of going through my eyeshadow palettes and duping out a palette that I want to buy. And that is exactly what we're gonna be doing here today. So if that sounds like a topic that is interesting to you and you want to see me dupe out the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette, then I encourage you to please subscribe and keep on watching. Coming at you right now. Okay, so I know this is a little chaotic, but I do think this is the coolest camera angle of all time because you can see all my eyeshadow palettes and you can see my little head here. What I'm gonna do is I will put a picture of the Angelica Club Nebula palette on the screen, which, by the way, I just want to give a disclaimer here. I think Angelica did such a good job on this palette and I think it is so beautiful, and if I were a wealthier woman, I would have bought it despite having repeat shades because I do think it's a beautifully curated palette. But I am not a wealthy woman, so that is why I am not purchasing it. Nothing against her, I think she did such a good job, and I've heard nothing but good things about Kaleidos' formula, so just a little disclaimer that this is not me duping it out because I don't want to support the brand or to support the person. It is just because I cannot afford to be buying repetitive shadows. Okay, so I'm going to be swatching the shades in the order they appear on those arm swatches so that at the end of the video we can compare them next to each other. So let's start with that first shade, which looks like kind of an icy purpley green shift. It's a beautiful shade, and if I'm being honest, I don't think I have anything that's exactly like that, but I do have a couple things that I think are pretty close. So I think the closest one I have is probably in my companion palette, my Copacetic Cosmetics in collaboration with M. Jones 5018 palette. This is such a beautiful palette, I love it so much, and I believe the shade Jessica might be the closest to that. Jessica is this beautiful iridescent green, but it does have a pink shift to it. So my shade might lean a little more pink than Angelica's, but I'm okay with that. You know, we're trying our best to dupe, but obviously they're not the exact same shade, so it's not gonna be perfect, but I feel like sometimes when things are on the eyes, you can have a little more wiggle room, you know? So I am going to be swatching the shade Jessica. I'm gonna do it with my middle finger. That's my good swatching finger. Ooh, yeah, mine's a little extra green. I'm okay with that. I like green. All right, so here we have my first swatch. It's definitely a little more green than the one in Angelica's palette. Hers definitely has some more purple to it, which is super beautiful, but this is the closest thing I have in my collection. So let's move on to the next shade, which I'm pretty sure I have a couple things in between for this beautiful turquoisey shade. Okay, I see it in front of me, and it is in the Amorus Lady Boss palette. So I got this in my Cheeky Beauty box, which is an indie subscription box that I did a video for like a month ago, and it's the Lady Boss palette. And I think that the shade in Angelica's palette looks closer to this shade, Focused. So let's see if it does. So swatching mine. Honestly, that's pretty close. I feel like that's a really close dupe. I feel like, yeah, I mean, tone-wise, maybe they're slightly different, but again, I feel like when you put stuff on the eyes, you got a lot more wiggle room, you know? So I'm really happy with that swatch. Now let's move on to that beautiful green shade. Oh, so pretty. Ugh, dude, my back after this video is gonna be so shot because I'm literally hunched over, but I refuse to change this camera angle because I think it's really cool. Okay, so the next shade, the third one down on those arm swatches, is this beautiful beautiful, like greeny, very vibrant looking green. It's part of the reason I wanted this palette, but then after looking at my palettes, I realized that the Beaute Oceanic palette has the same shade. Heck yeah, it's one of my favorites in that palette. It's called Algae. How pretty. Okay, let's swatch it to really see if it looks the same. Oh yeah, that's a good dupe, baby. That is a dupe and a half. I didn't put enough on my fingers, so I'm going in again. Yep, we're having a good start. We're having a really strong start to duping this palette. And I feel like the Beaute Oceanic palette, if you own this, I feel like you own a lot of what's in the Club Nebula palette, because that's how I feel. I feel like I'm gonna be dipping back into here real soon, honestly, for the next shade, because that next shade, I can already tell, looks very similar to Pacific. I'll put it on the screen here. You can see swatched. My only fear is Pacific might be a little deeper, but we'll see. And you know what? I'm never mad at a shade having a little more depth, so that's okay with me. All right, so let's dip our finger into Pacific here. Okay, so let's swatch this next shade. Oh yes, talk about depth. We love depth. What is this, the ocean? Because it's deep. I definitely feel like that might be a little bit deeper, but also I feel like it's the lighting of that photo. You know, I'll take a photo of my arm fully swatched at the end so we can really compare, but looking in person versus the picture, yeah, that's a good dupe. I stand by that dupe. Okay, the one right under that is another shade in the Beaute Oceanic palette. That beautiful deep blue shade. Hello, it's Lagoon. It's gotta be Lagoon. It could possibly be Blue Clam, but I feel like Blue Clam's not quite as deep as the shade in the Club Nebula palette, so we're gonna go with Lagoon here. Yeah, that was the right call. That was for sure the right call. Look at that. Look at my arm versus the Kaleidos arm swatches. We are off to a hot start, my friends. I knew my first section was going to be the strongest in my collection, so we'll see how it goes from here, but I'm feeling good so far. Okay, so the next shade in the Club Nebula palette, I had to look at a couple different pictures of, because I feel like when you first look at it, it kind of just looks like a straight icy shade, but then in the flash photo, it definitely looks like it is more of a pinky shift to it. So I think my strongest dupe for that is gonna be back in my Copacetic Cosmetics Companion palette. This is such a good palette. I reach for this all the time. And I believe the shade Kaylee is gonna be closest to that, as this beautiful pinky gold shift to it. So mine might be a little more goldy, but also the one in Angelica's palette looked kind of goldy. So we shall see. I kind of think I nailed it on this. I'm trying to like show you this. Yeah, see, it's got an icy pink shift. Okay, I was worried I didn't have a good dupe for that one, but that's actually a really nice dupe. Great, okay, moving on. The next shade I'm like, a little nervous about, because it's kind of like a grayish purple, which I have quite a bit of purple in my collection, but a grayish purple, I don't know. So in the Lady Boss palette, you can see I have kind of like a taupey gray here, but the one in the Angelica palette is definitely like a purpley taupey gray. Wait, is it this one? Okay, I might have a shade for it. I think the purple shade in the Natasha Denona Mini Tropic palette might be a good dupe for this. Full transparency, this is not my favorite formula. I do find it to be a little finicky, but I also don't wear shades like this too often, so just for the purposes of swatching it, I am gonna swatch it for you, but just know that I don't think that this palette is a very good formula, but I do think the shade is similar and it can get the job done. It's not the worst formula I've ever used, but you guys know how expensive Natasha Denona is, so I was a little disappointed, but yeah, okay, this one might be, you know what? No, I take it back. The more I swatch it, the more I'm like, yeah, this is really close to the Angelica one. Yes, a nice taupey grayish purple. Okay, we're making moves here. We're absolutely making moves. That's a good dupe. I was worried I didn't have a dupe for that one. Look at me being worried for no reason. Just Virgo things, am I right? Okay, this next shade is a little tough just because it looks different in literally every picture. It's the bluish purple duochrome. It's very pretty, but in certain pictures it looks more blue than purple, which I guess is the nature of a duochrome. But I think the shade I have that looks the closest is gonna be from the It's Freaking Bats palette with Beautbean and Shroud, and that's the shade 0. This is one of the most beautiful eyeshadows I own. Oh my gosh, Shroud's duochrome formula, stupid good. I am a little worried mine's gonna be more on the periwinkle side. Okay, yeah, mine's definitely a little more purpley. Ooh. but then again, in certain lights, I don't know. Okay, this might be the first shade that I don't quite have. I definitely think mine is more of a periwinkle purple duochrome, and the Club Nebula palettes is definitely more of like a teal purple duochrome. It's beautiful. I want it. I want to have it. I wish I could buy a single, but I do feel like this is the closest thing I have at the moment. So we're just gonna move on. Okay, the next shade we're going for is another gray toned purple, but it's deeper than the other one. So cool, great, love that. Love looking for things I don't really have. See, the one after this shade, I know I for sure have. The one before this, I'm not sure. We might have to do a little bit of mixology with this shade to make it work for me, but I think the one I'm gonna start with is the shade Bigwig in the Jackie Aina ABH palette, because that's the closest to the tone. I think I might have to add a little gray, and you know what, I'm okay with that. If I have to mix for one of the shades, that's fine, because in real life, I'm happy to mix eyeshadows on my eyes, you know? So I don't feel bad about it. Okay, so let's go in with Bigwig. Yeah, mine's definitely a little warmer. Okay, now, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. Is this allowed? Is it breaking the rules? I don't care, I am making my own rules. We're gonna dip back into the Lady Boss palette from Amorus, and we're gonna dip into that shade Hustle. These shadows are so smooth and creamy. Oh my gosh, they're like better quality than the ABH ones, but that's besides the point. Okay, let's mix them together a little bit. Okay, we're getting more of that taupey business here. We're cooling things down a bit. We kind of got there. You know what? It's a little warmer tone than the one in the palette, but it's fine. The thing is, and that's another reason I didn't buy this palette, is that I don't wear like cool toned purples, like taupey purples like that. So I'm not that upset that I don't have a perfect match for it, but I think it's close enough for our purposes. Okay, now that deepest shade of purple, I know I have. I know I have it in the It's Freaking Bats palette. The shade Dairy looks identical to that shade, at least in the picture. Oh, such a smooth shade. Shroud's shadows are so smooth. It's like literally sticking your fingers in butter, except less messy and less sticky. So let's give that a swatch. Ooh, that's a good match. Oh, that is got to feel good if you're me. And if you are me, you know it does feel good. It feels great. Wow, I feel like I have the Club Nebula palette. This is nuts. This is so fun. I'm having such a good time. Okay, great. Moving on. Okay, this next shade has kind of like a pinky peachy shift, and I know exactly what I'm gonna use for this one. I'm gonna be using my One Colored Rain single shadow. I have it in my little single shadows palette I have here. It's the Colored Rain shade Happy Days. Oops, it's moving around. It's magnetic palette, doesn't have anything to hold on to, but I think they look really similar, at least from the picture, so let's see if it does swatched. Ooh, okay, look at that. That's a pretty good comparison, right? I feel like hers looks a little icier than mine. Mine has a little bit more depth, but that's okay, because I could always sheer mine out if I wanted to and achieve the same look, and this shade is so pretty. Oh my gosh, when this shade hits the sun, this shade for sure can flex in the sun. It's wearing tiny sunglasses. It's very cool, and I feel like that's a pretty good dupe. Okay, moving on. Okay, so the next shade in the palette is kind of this beautiful purpley blue duochrome, kind of like the one we saw earlier, except this one looks more like purple pinky, which I'm thrilled about because I have a perfect dupe in my Copacetic Cosmetics Companion palette. This shade, what is it called? Robin. Oh my gosh, Robin is so, so pretty. And it's a super purpley, pinky, bluey duochrome. It's beautiful. Is that a multichrome? I don't know. I'm gonna turn it this way while I'm swatching, and then I'll show it to you right after. Oh, I'm so bad at leaving space. Oh no. That is a good doopity doop doop doop. Doopity doop doop doop. We're having a good dupe in time. I think that looks good. You're definitely not seeing the blue as much on camera, but I feel like once I take a picture and show you, it'll be more evident. So we're gonna move along. We're in the home stretch here. I'm super excited about it because I'm running out of room. Okay, peachy shimmer. Already know what we're looking for. That's gonna be Blossom and the Midas Cosmetics Flower Bomb palette. We're finally touching, dang it. I forgot, my palette's kind of fallen apart a little bit because I've dropped it a few too many times. This shade, Blossom, in the Flower Bomb palette looks very similar to that peachy shimmer. Definitely a more pigmented peachy shimmer than the last one we went with, than that Colored Rain one. So I think this should work out swimmingly, and it is working out swimmingly. Wow, that's a really good color match. See, it's a nice, beautiful peachy shimmer. Oh, so pretty. Okay, now we have a peachy matte, which I'm also gonna take from the Midas Cosmetics Flower Bomb palette because we have this shade Peony? I never know how to say it, like the flower. You guys know what I'm talking about. So let's take a dippy dip in here. I'm gonna have to go a little bit on my bicep here because I am running out of room. That's a really good dupe for that peachy shade, I think. And the last shade is also from the Flower Bomb palette. I'm so psyched about this. We're really finishing up strong here. We got the shade Dahlia in the Flower Bomb palette that I know is gonna be such a good dupe for the last shade in the Club Nebula palette. Heck yeah, dude, awesome. Okay, and going slightly up onto my bicep here. Okay, you know what? I got a little overexcited about this. Hers is a little deeper than mine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip into my Zodiac Cosmetics Virgo palette, the shade Desire right here, and we're just gonna add a tinge of that because I think that one probably would have been better. Yeah, that one probably would have been better. Okay, well never mind, we're switching it to Desire from the Zodiac Cosmetics Virgo palette. But look at this. What is this? The Club Nebula palette? Nope, it's a bunch of my eyeshadows from a bunch of different palettes. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take some video footage and some pictures of my arm so we can put them next to each other and so that I don't have to sit like this for much longer because it's very uncomfortable. All right, I'm all cleaned up. This is literally the messiest video I've ever filmed. I am absolutely covered head to toe in eyeshadows, but in the end, it was all worth it because look at these swatches. I know one's on my bicep and that is annoying, but let's do a little side-by-side comparison. Up here, you have the Angelica X Kaleidos Club Nebula palette, and down over here, you got my palette. Well, not my palette, but my swatches, my doopy dupes. You guys know the deal. I'm gonna put some footage of that I took on my phone here so you can really see the comparisons. I tried to do different sections of my arm so it's a little more digestible for you to see, but I really think when you break it down section by section, they're really good dupes. I do think that I have dupes for everything in the palette for the most part. You know, the only one I really think is this duochrome here. The one I used from the Shroud palette is definitely not exactly the same as the one from the Kaleidos palette. I really wish Kaleidos would release singles of this palette, especially of the shimmers, because there are a couple duochromes in there that I think are super unique that I don't quite have a match for, but I feel like with most of the colors, I have really good matches for them, and I feel happy that I didn't buy the palette. And again, no shade to anyone who worked on the palette. I've heard great things about Kaleidos' formula, and I really like Angelica Nyqvist. I think she's so sweet, and I think she made such a beautiful palette. And again, if I had the money to spare, I would have bought it anyways, because I think it's really beautiful and well curated, and I would love to have all of these beautiful shades in one palette. But right now, in the financial place that I am in, I have all the shades and I don't mind using multiple palettes at a time. Actually, the reason I decided I wasn't gonna buy the palette is because I watched Angelica's 3 looks 1 palette video, which she created some beautiful looks. She created absolutely gorgeous looks, but I realized that I could recreate those looks using shades that I had, which is what led me to figure out that I have the palette already, just spread out through a bunch of different eyeshadow palettes. But I think this was so fun to do, and I totally recommend you try this. If there's a palette that comes out that you really want, but you have this sinking feeling in the back of your mind that you might already have a lot of the shades like I did when I saw the Club Nebula palette, then try this. Lay out all of your eyeshadow palettes in one place and try swatching them, because I do think the swatches is what made all the difference. Because when I was just looking at my eyeshadow palettes last week deciding, I was like, okay, I feel like I have all of these shades, but I still had that feeling in the back of my mind like, ooh, but what if I don't? So I'm really glad that I took the time to swatch them so that I can really see that, oh, I do. I got the palette. It's right here. It's on my little arm. Okay, I'm gonna go wash my arm now because I am getting eyeshadow absolutely everywhere, but I hope you liked this video. Let me know if you would want to see me do this with another palette. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and sometimes Saturdays, and I'd love to have you. If you're curious about anything on my face today, I will have it all linked down below. Also down below, I have a bunch of Black Lives Matter resources. I have petitions to sign, places to donate, and ways to help protesters, so please click on those links if you have the time. I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Bye with my swatch arm. Okay, bye.